Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach. Shir Torah, Baruch Hashem, good to be here. Start of another week, Baruch Hashem. More Torah, more Chidushim, more news. Unfortunately, a little bit of bad news for Am Yisrael every day. Every day is new kaparat avonot. Every day there's new issues that we have to deal with. But this is the Chavle Mashiach. This is the birth pains of what's going to happen before Mashiach comes. Be'ezrat Hashem. It says that the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, they asked the Chachamim, what do you think about the times of Mashiach? And it said, Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkener says, I want him to come. I just don't want to be there when he comes. And ask him why. Why don't you want to be there when he comes? He says the situation is going to be so unbearable, so painful, it's going to be like birth pains. But not for one woman, for the entire world. So every day, my Rav and I, Baruch Hashem, we try to talk almost every day. And we learn together. And every day we assess things that are happening in the world, different news in our lives, in our communities, and so on. And for some time now we've been saying, there's a Orach Chaim HaKadosh says that before Mashiach comes, Am Yisrael is going to get to the 50th level of Tum'ah. The 50th level of Tum'ah. What's this 50th level of Tum'ah? Before we left Egypt, Hashem Yitbarach allowed us to get to the 49th level of impurity, meaning so many sins, so many things that are considered to'avat Hashem, things that are disgusting in the eyes of Hashem, that the nation as a whole became so impure that we were self-destructing. And we got to the 49th level, and the Chachamim say that had Am Yisrael stayed in Egypt for another day, another hour, another minute, and somebody would have made a sin, they would have reached the 50th level, and once they reached the 50th level, chas v'shalom, there's no saving them. So Hashem allowed them mamash to get to last centimeter before He took them out, and then we miraculously rose drastically over the next 50 days from the time we left Egypt all the way to Shavuot Matan Torah. We went up spiritually to such a high extent that we were able to get the Torah. One of the ways was actually purifying our food. This is the reason why Hashem gave us man. The man was given to us because part of the man's job was to purify our neshamot. The food that you eat turns into your blood. So if the food is impure, your neshama becomes impure. So if you think that eating non-kosher food is not such a big deal, you should know it's making you impure. What does it mean, becoming impure? Becoming impure means you become much more vulnerable to sins. Much more vulnerable to cheating on your wife. Much more vulnerable to cheating on your husband. Much more vulnerable to stealing. Much more vulnerable to lying. Much more vulnerable to doing a lot of things that are not acceptable by anybody's standard, even the Goyim. But this only applies to the Jews. Why? Because only the Jews are commanded to keep the kosher laws. So Hashem allowed us to eat this man along with other things. We also learned some serious mitzvot. One of them being Shabbat. Another one being Rosh Chodesh. Another one Brit Milah. We got some mitzvot before we got Torah. Each one of these mitzvot was a complete mesirut nefesh, self-sacrifice to do it. We have to change our life. Imagine somebody drives on Shabbat their entire life, all of a sudden they have to keep Shabbat. When? Now. What do you mean? But I don't even know why yet. I don't have all the rules yet. It doesn't make a difference. Now you know it. Why? Yes. So Moshe Rabbeinu gave the Mashiach Bagenom. Before we got Torah, he gave the Mashiach Bagenom. Much worse than mine. So Am Yisrael had to make certain drastic changes without really having all of the information yet. Mesirut nefesh. They had to do Brit Milah without knowing really all the reasons that you guys know today. You have the vitamin K, and you heal fast, and it's good to do this, and it's good to do that. Without knowing all of that. You have to do Brit Milah when? Now. before you leave Egypt. So we see from here that Mesirut Nefesh was the way that we inherited the Torah. And the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, Resh Lakish says, a person that wants to inherit Torah must get used to Mesirut Nefesh, must get used to self-sacrifice. What is self-sacrifice? In simple English, do I expect you, or does HaShem expect you to go, skydive? What's self-sacrifice? Without a parachute? What's self-sacrifice? To go if the Romans come in Machshimam V'zicham and they tell you, listen, go kill yourself or bow to J.C. Penney, you kill yourself. Is that self-sacrifice? Baruch Hashem, they're not asking us to do it. What's self-sacrifice? Self-sacrifice, Rabotai, in simple terms, means suffering. That's self-sacrifice. Suffering. But not suffering because Hashem brought you the suffering. That's easy suffering. That's not a choice suffering. You have a choice suffering if you have hemorrhoids? It's not your choice. You suffer whether you like it or not. You have a choice if you have a stomach ache. You didn't decide your stomach hurts or not. You have a choice if you have a headache or a toothache. It's not your choice. So that's not Mesirut Nefesh. Suffering, Rabotai, suffering is when you bring it onto yourself. And suffering is part of all of our lives, whether you like it or not. What you get the choice of is how you're going to suffer. You're either going to suffer waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go pray nets, or you're going to suffer by being in the bathroom half the day. Which one do you want? Same price. Same price. You go to Biknes at 6 o'clock in the morning, or you can be in the bathroom half a day. You could watch your eyes, and you can't look at any woman that's not your wife 100% with nothing. Or your wife, the one that loves you, all of a sudden she doesn't like you anymore. Why? Suffering. Which one do you want? Same price. Same price. Same price. Rabotai, a woman that goes with a married man goes with a married woman. So on. Eshet Ish. Do you guys understand what kind of sin this is in the Torah? Now last week, I told you a story. There was a mizazeh. There's a continuation to this story. A woman that her wicked, horrible, disastrous husband left her, took all the money, left her and a 2-year-old to die, nothing, only left her with bills. The job she has is just enough to pay for all of the debt. Meaning, in Israel, apparently they have this policy where everything is direct debit. Pretty much everything she makes from the company, which is not that much to begin with, gets directly withdrawn out of her account. Meaning she doesn't get to live off of a penny of it. Everything goes to serve a debt. So this woman, Miskena, she says, my daughter is starving. 2-year-old baby is starving. What is she going to do? She says, I'm going to sell my body. Sell body parts or sell the body itself. Whatever it is. And the husband, by the way, if being a Rasha Merusha wasn't enough, by leaving her to take all the money and everything, it wasn't enough, he also didn't give her a get either. So that means she can't even find a new husband. So now that means that if she touches another man, she's an Eshet Ish. What's the Din Torah for Eshet Ish, woman that goes with, a married woman goes with somebody else? Din Torah is Gzar Din Mavet, how? Chenek, a strangulation. So now, Hashem Yitbarach works midah keneged midah. Baruch Hashem, last week we had the merit to be a messenger, try to help this woman. But apparently Hashem wanted to reward those that were part of it. So someone that connected the message this weekend had guests in the house. And the guest had a child, and they have children. And the kids are playing together. And you know, you have guests over, you don't have the same rules. You may have rules that your kids have to do a bracha before they eat. Their kids, they eat and then they do bracha. You have your kids, you teach them that you're not allowed to hit anybody. Their kids think it's a mitzvah to hit people. Different people, different laws. So they had such guests where the kid thought it was a mitzvah to hit the other kids, and all types of good midot. So anyway, this little kid decides to give a candy called Mentos. To who? To a 1-year-old baby. It's a known thing for children. Mentos, not allowed. Not allowed to give Mentos to kids. Why? Because they are, mamash, 99% chance they're going to choke on it. Because it slips through the tongue, they don't chew, and it's mamash, right, perfect size to Shem and HaShem. And already a few kids in Israel died from this candy. So he gives it to a baby, this little kid gives it to a baby. What happens to the baby when they have Mentos? Chokes. The mom's trying to save the baby's turning blue. She puts her hand down her throat to save the baby. The baby starts bleeding from the throat. Because she's scratching, she's trying to get something out with her finger. It's not an operation room. Trying to save it. It's much. 2 seconds. 2 seconds, you're finished. She's trying, the kid starts bleeding. Choking. Nothing works. The father takes the baby, turns him upside down. Turns the girl upside down. Upside down, little 1-year-old. You start hitting him on the back. Usually if they choke, that's the way. You hold them by the leg, like a chicken. Hit him in the back. That's usually the way. That loses everything. Does it work? Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Why? HaShem says, I want to show you how I work. If your wife fixed it, then you think your wife fixed it. If you fixed it, you think you fixed it. But if I fixed it, then you know I fixed it. How do we know he fixed it? When all fails. When all fails, and he says, Livu alai v'ani porea. Borrow on my name, and I'll pay back. So after the mom fails, after the father fails, all of a sudden, the kid's choking. Stops. Just stops. Stops choking. Stops choking, starts breathing. Back to being a 1-year-old. Like nothing happened. 25 minutes later, the baby vomits everything with the candy. Apparently, Shem and HaShem, there was a din in Shamayim. There was a din in Shamayim that for something, for some reason, for somehow, somebody was supposed to get heretic. Hashem says, you took it on you, I'll show you how I saved you from it too. Now, if that wasn't enough, we see that there's constant miracles around us if we just simply pay attention to them. But the same token, as we get miracles, we also get tikkunim, we get kaparat avonot, we get problems. This poor woman, she got a chizuk from Rabbi Reuven last week, explained to her, you're not allowed to do these things, you're not allowed to even consider selling your body, not the organs, and not Shem and HaShem znut, and so on. The woman is very, very simple, Haredi woman, very simple woman, naive. She went back to work, and she told her boss, listen, all this, since you gave me this job, you always like touch me. Haredi guy, fake Haredi. Touches her inappropriately, nothing like the actual act, but inappropriate, touching, hugging, this, squeeze, all this disgusting behavior by wicked people that have money and think they run the world. She says, you're not allowed to touch me. He said, oh, no problem. By the way, the project you're working on, it's completed. You can go home now. We don't need you anymore. He fires her on the spot. He fires her on the spot. Rasha merusha. Miskena, the woman, what is she going to do? She's thinking, I was already struggling before. I was already struggling before with the job. Now I don't have a job. Oh, HaShem. We tried helping her again today. And already somebody that watched the shiur is trying to help send some more money. Need as much as possible to help this poor woman. But we see the tests keep coming. The situation keeps getting more difficult. And one of the most difficult things that I see today, it's difficult to know the truth. Because the truth is available. Truth is available, Baruch Hashem. But it's difficult to identify it unless you have a good foundation. If I told you the story in a secular world in Wall Street, this wouldn't be such a abnormal story. You would actually say, "No, I think she probably slept with them." Like you would think what do you mean? Why she even say such things? It's normal in the secular world for a secretary to be with the boss, with the manager, with the this, with the that. It's normal. But I'm telling you a story in a religious world. This is the reason before any man thinks he's a hero by sending his wife to go work, he should think twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 8 times, 1,000 times, and then come up with another choice. If your wife does not want to work, she wants to be a housewife, find another way. If you need to go work, you go work. Your Torah is not worth your wife. Go find another way to learn Torah. It's so difficult to be in the business world today as a religious Jewish person, let alone even more so as a Jewish woman, that to go, some of these men think that they're going to go learn in a kollel, they're going to learn all day, and they're going to go send their wives to go work and make the money. Little do they know that over time, the woman, mishtabeshet, she starts changing a little bit. Why? Her colleagues, her boss, a promotion, a deal, so on. All of these things happen. You know how many houses were destroyed because of these people that thought they were doing a good thing by sending their wives to go work? You hear these stories and you're thinking, yeah, they're probably talking about the Greeks. No, the Romans, the Italians, the Spaniards, the Americans. You're not talking about Am Yisrael, Am Kadosh. You're talking about Am Yisrael. It's very difficult to know the truth because the foundation is rotten many times. Foundation today is rotten. In many places, they teach you the wrong thing. They teach you their opinion. Teachers today teach opinions. They teach psychology. They teach self-help. And that foundation is so rotten that as soon as there's a difficulty in a person's life, they break. As soon as a person is exposed to one test, they break. As soon as they don't have money in a checking account, they break. As soon as the husband yells at the wife, she breaks. As soon as the wife yells at the husband, people break easily. Like toothpicks. Mamash, break easily. Something happens, we break. But you have to know. No one else is going to tell you this. It's going to get more difficult. If you think that your life is difficult now, wait till Mashiach comes. It's going to get more difficult. Because the Chachamim say that before Mashiach comes, there's going to be a lot of major decisions to be made. En ben David ba, ela bedoro shekulo zakai o kulo chayav. The Mashiach is not going to come until there's a generation where everyone are tzaddikim or rashayim. So Chachamim say it's never possible for a tzaddikim rashayim. Even if there's a lot of tzaddikim, like the Bet HaMikdash in the beginning, the first 20 years, Baruch Hashem, many tzaddikim. The next 390 years, first Bet HaMikdash, talk about Shlomo HaMelech, the next 390 years, there was always an idol worshiper in the nation. Meaning we had Bet HaMikdash for 410 years, the first Bet HaMikdash, 20 years, Baruch Hashem, no idolatry. 20 years, tzaddikim. The next 390 years, idol worship. It's not like only the last year we had idolatry and murder, and then Hashem said, okay, Chatan Avinu Pashan, you didn't say, I'm killing all of you. You didn't do that. 390 years of sins. How do we get 390 years of sins? How do we get such credit? 20 years of mitzvot. Such is the schar for mitzvah. We did 20 years of mitzvot, you got 390 years of leeway to have idolatry. How gracious is Hashem? Chasdei Hashem, mamash chesed from Hashem, kindness from Hashem. But even in that generation of 20 years of tzaddikim, there was still Rashayim inside. There was still always Rashayim somewhere. Maybe they weren't idol worshippers, they did something else though. So Chachamim say that even a generation of tzaddikim was still going to have Reshaim, so Mashiach couldn't come then. And now you're saying a generation of Reshaim. Even during a generation, 390 years of Reshaim, idol worship, there was still tzaddikim. There was still tzaddikim. You had giants among giants. The prophet Jeremiah was at the end of the first Bet HaMikdash. Prophet, Kodesh Kodeshim, spoke to Hashem like we're speaking to each other. Spoke to Hashem. There's a book written about him. Prophet Isaiah, Prophet Ezekiel, prophets, tzaddikim. It's always going to be tzaddikim, even though it's a Reshaim. So what is it? How does it? Chachamim say, before Mashiach comes, of course it's never going to be everybody tzaddikim. And of course, it's never going to be everybody Reshaim. Before Mashiach comes, it's not going to be any Benonim. It's not going to be anyone in the middle. You're going to have to decide, am I going to be full force tzaddik or Rasha? Am I going to go full force with tzitzit, with tefillin, with limud Torah, where I'm charidi, ish, emet, 150 million %, all I know is Hashem? Or Korach. And now the Torah, you're going to go join them. You're going to make your own rules. We're not saying Rashaim, you're going to become murderers and rapists, that even the Goyim know that these people are bad. No. We're talking about, what's Rashaim we're talking about? We're talking about a tzaddik. It looks like a tzaddik. But in reality, Rasha Merusha. Wicked. Son of wicked. But has a beard nicer than all of ours. This is the confusing part, because today, you don't know who's who. You don't know who's who. You hear some stories, it confuses you. It confuses you of what's happening in the world. Last week we talked about how in Chabad they have, unfortunately, a large group of them that think that the Rebbe is not dead. He's not only the Mashiach, but he's also alive. And when we say something against it, they send curses and insults, and you don't know, and you don't this, and you don't that. If this was our biggest problem, Baruch Hashem. But the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, if you remember how we started, Or HaChaim said we're going to get to the 50th level. We're going to be worse than before Mitzrayim. We got the 49th in Mitzrayim. Or HaChaim HaKadosh says we're going to get to level 50. We're going to get worse. Worse than what we were. Worse than the idolatry of back then. So one of the ways I'm thinking, it's not that it's going to be like in Egypt, everyone was together. Some were good, some were bad, but nonetheless, everybody made similar mistakes. But everybody knew where everybody stood. The men, for the most part, were idolaters. They connected to the Egyptian idolatry. The women didn't. Everyone kept their Jewish name. Everyone kept their language. Everyone kept their Jewish clothes. We didn't change our customs, but we had certain things that were considered disgusting in the eyes of Hashem, which is namely idolatry. Meaning it was a common sin among most people. But the women were still kedoshim. The women were still modest. The women still, with the exception of one story of Shlomit, which we read about in last week's Parashat Emor, no woman was touched by an Egyptian. No woman spent her time flirting with anyone. So with the, realistically, just this one sin of idolatry and things like it, overall everybody stood in the same place. Or HaChaim says we're going to get to a level that's worse. How worse? It's going to be confusing. Why? Because the tzaddik and the rasha are going to look the same sometimes. The tzaddik and the rasha are going to look the same. So, today, I got news. The same person that publicized the news last week, actually, about the Messianic Chabadniks putting a poster that the Rebbe couldn't show up because he's sick. So apparently he gets a lot of really spicy news. And right now there is a group of Haredim, group of Haredi, ultra orthodox, deluxe Jewish people, some of them being Satmir, which is the Chumrah of the Chumrah. Rav Yoel was Kodesh Kodeshim. Some of the students, not so much. Same thing with Rabbi Nachman, same thing with Lubavitcher, same thing with Ovadia, same thing with every rabbi. It's not exclusive to them. Everyone has, there's the Kodesh Kodeshim rabbi, some Kodesh Kodeshim Talmidim, some Reshaim. They call themselves Talmidim, but they're really not. They do everything the opposite of what the rabbi said. But anyway, on the exterior, everybody looks the same. With the streimel and the coats and the beards and everybody looks the same. You don't know. So apparently a few of these Satmar and some other Haredim, not just Satmar, some other Haredim, apparently they got a pretty significant paycheck from a multi-millionaire who has one mission on his mind. What's the mission? Missionize Am Yisrael to Christianity. How? Using Orthodox Jews to distort the Torah, mistranslate it intentionally, to cater to the Christian purpose, but with who? With Jewish kids. But if a Christian guy came and went to a Jewish neighborhood and told them, listen, guys, you know, you have Isaiah 53 and you have this, and all the stupid arguments they have over and over again. Every Christian, every missionary, every messianic, it's always the same exact thing. Yeah, but Isaiah 53, but Isaiah 53. We've answered it 50,000 times, but they still ignore it. And they always, oh yeah, the suffering servant, the suffering servant, the suffering. Hopefully you guys suffer with your stupidity. But the point is, they come with the same thing. Now, to anyone that's learned, automatically you know this is complete nonsense. But someone that's ignorant, someone that's naive, it works. Now, what's the problem? This is if it's coming from a Christian person. This is if it's coming from someone that doesn't look like you. Now, if that someone looks like you, if that someone is wearing a beard and a hat, if that someone is even a rabbi, big rabbi, in certain communities, and he comes, tells you, oh yeah, you know what, maybe there is something to this Yoshke. Oh, you know what, maybe there is something to this Christianity, this New Testament, you should check it out. Whether you learned or you're not learned, all your defenses were broken just by looking at who's telling you what's telling you. You have a problem. Atzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav. Yaakov Avinu cries to Hashem, save me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esav. Some months ago we gave a chidush and explained that this is Yaakov Avinu giving a prophecy that it's more scary when it's the hand of our brother than it's the hand of the Esav. Even though technically, the pshat of the story, the hand is the same hand. Achi and Esav is the same person. The brother is Esav and Esav is the brother. So why is he mentioning both? Because when it's Esav, we know it's Esav. We know it's the Romans. We know it's the Germans. We know it's the other Christians. We know they're trying to kill us. But it's much more dangerous when they look like Achi. When they look like our brother. Either these Messianic Jews, which are really Christians in disguise, or now some Haredim. Now some modern Orthodox. Now it's people that are outright Jewish and they practice Judaism. But they also practice collecting millions of dollars and depositing into foreign bank accounts. We have this now. And the only way to defend ourselves through such things is by having a very strong foundation. Now, the problem today is that most people simply do not know the laws of the Torah. They don't know the details of the Torah. So as soon as you start dropping names of different heretics, different reshaim, automatically the ignorants out there say, no, it's Lashon Hara, it's Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara, now talk about this rabbi like this. He's a big Talmid Chacham. He wrote 30 books. He gave a lecture in Zimbabwe. He gives mashiah once in a while, even though it's to his own bank account. He's got a wife and kids. You're ruining his life. Lashon Hara, Lashon Hara, Lashon Hara. Where does everybody learn Lashon Hara? Lashon Hara most commonly is learned from the Chafetz Chaim. Now, the Chafetz Chaim is not 500 years ago. Chafetz Chaim is less than 100 years ago, 80 years ago. And Chafetz Chaim came to before he sacrificed his life, his Torah, his learning, his everything, to publicize the details of Lashon Hara. He said the situation in the nation was so bad that we're bringing a lot of judgment on a nation. It was common for people to talk Lashon Hara. Not so different from today. So he came to the Gdol HaDor, Rabbi Chaim Ozer, Kozinski, and he told them, Gdol HaDor, tell Am Yisrael to stop saying Lashon Hara. Tell them. He says, what do you want me to say? He says, tell them it's no different than eating pig, because I can't say it. He goes, why? Why not? He goes, because then people, they're so meshubashim, they're so demented in their mind, there's so little Torah, that what are they going to do? Say, oh, it's just as bad as eating pig? Okay, it's just eating pig now. Saying Lashon Hara, everybody does Lashon Hara. So if Lashon Hara is no different than eating pig, let's eat pig too. What were they used to do? We're not going to change. We're not going to stop saying Lashon Hara, so might as well eat pig too. So this is when the Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan, was his real name. Chafetz Chaim is the name of his book. Decided to literally detail the laws of Lashon Hara. And a lot of people love to talk about it. A lot of people love to teach it. Even though for the most part, the vast majority of the population in the world at large are as far away from it as we are from truth in general. When you talk about dinim of Lashon Hara or Mechalel Shabbat, you're completely wasting every breath that comes out of your mouth. It should be considered as Bal Tashchit. Like there was in the Gemara, there's several times that there's an argument, there's a debate between the Chachamim. The debate between the Chachamim. And they're right, Alacha, I believe this, I believe this, I believe this, I believe this. And they're very spicy with each other because they're fighting for their emet. So a few times I saw, in Masechet Shabbat, a few other places, one of the Chachamim says to the other one, you not only made a mistake with the Alacha, you made another sin of Bal Tashchit. What's Bal Tashchit? Bal Tashchit is being wasteful. Why being wasteful? You wasted the paper and the ink that you wrote, this nonsense that you wrote. This is Kodesh Kodashim. But they're spicy. They're going for the emet. There's a lot of fire there. There's no insults like, you're ugly, you're this. No, it's not personal. Meaning you're so far away from the truth, why'd you even do this, Bechlal? You didn't think enough. You didn't think enough before you wrote this. You wasted paper, you wasted ink. To teach a Mechalel Shabbat laws of Lashon Hara is Bal Tashchit, in my opinion. Why? If the guy doesn't care enough about his own neshama to keep Shabbat, what makes you think that he's not going to say Lashon Hara? He's even going to consider anything you say. He doesn't care about his own neshama. He doesn't realize every single day he survives and Hashem didn't kill him is 100% a miracle. Baruch Hashem, there was a Kiddush Hashem this Shabbat. There was a Kiddush Hashem this Shabbat. One of the leader rabbis of the Reform movement today that teaches in a Reform yeshiva to teach other heretics to become bigger heretics. Baruch Hashem, he flew his plane on Shabbat and crashed. Baruch Hashem. He flew his plane on Shabbat and crashed and died. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. This is Kiddush Hashem, Rabotai. I know people are going to want to hang me. Oh, it's not nice. He's a Jew. He's a this. He's a that. When a kofer, a mesite, a apikos, a Rasha Merusha violates Shabbat befaresya and he dies, it's a Kiddush Hashem. Why is it Kiddush Hashem? Because he died on Shabbat, being Mechalel Shabbat. If he died on Tuesday, I wouldn't mention it. A lot of people die. 20 million people die a year almost. 18.5 million people die a year. But he died on Shabbat, being Mechalel Shabbat. Haaretz reported it. Somebody sent it to me. And I told, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, this guy that helps other people become bigger heretics, violated Shabbat, and Hashem said, enough's enough. Enough's enough. Now, when I say it, people want to hang me. They want to have, there's at least 20, 30 people right now that are watching. They say, so you're a little machmir. You're stringent. What if I told you that the Chafetz Chaim did the same thing? The Chafetz Chaim Kodesh Kodashim, one time he was in a train moving from place to place, and people were talking Lashon Hara on the train. He jumped out of the train while it was moving. He jumped out of the train while it was moving. Almost killed himself. Such is Lashon Hara. You're not allowed to listen to it. He says, anytime somebody says Lashon Hara, a malach is created that's enough to destroy a city. Destroy a city. He heard Lashon Hara on a train that he's on. He jumped off the train. He says, there's no way I could stop it. It's all these people. He jumped off the train while it was moving. So one day, it was heard that the Chafetz Chaim, the one that jumped off of a moving train, almost killed himself just not to listen to Lashon Hara, the one that wrote the books about Lashon Hara, he is going in the street in public, and anytime there's an opportunity, saying, Adam Cohen, imach shimo v'imach zichro. He's publicly saying imach shimo to a Jew, a Cohen. A Jew by the name of Adam Cohen. He's saying imach shimo, imach zichro. May he die, may he did. Oh, HaShem Menachem, what kind of curses. By the way, this is also in your tefillah, in your Amidah. So he says, Imach Shimo. People are saying, no way this is happening. No way this is happening. Another time, he was talking against the Zionists. The Zionists were anti-Torah. He's saying, Imach Shimam, Imach Zichram, all the mamash things you say about Yoshi, about Yoshke, the J.C. Penney, about ISIS, about Christian missionaries. He says, Imach Shimam, Imach Shimam, Imach Shimam. Chafetz Chaim? No, it's Lashon Hara. They're saying, no way that the Chafetz Chaim is saying such things. So they actually wrote a fake article, like they wrote an article, and they included a fake letter from him, saying, I didn't say these things. He came out publicly, he says, whoever believed this fake letter obviously did not learn my Torah, and there's no bigger foolishness if someone tells you that I'm not going to say Lashon Hara in public about such people. Why? Because if you read my books, if you read the dinim of Lashon Hara, you would have had to get the Klal 8, Seif 5. In the laws of Lashon Hara, the Chafetz Chaim says the following. וכל זה האסור של לשון הרע הוא דווקא על איש שעל פי דין תורה הוא עדיין בכלל עמיתך, דיינו אם שאיתך בתורה ובמצוות. He says, and all of this isurim, all of this forbidden, not allowed to say this, not allowed to say this, not allowed to even listen, now all of these laws of Lashon Hara, who are they pertaining to, applies only when spoken against a man who is in the category of amitecha. Amitecha meaning your neighbor. I.e., a person who is with you in Torah and mitzvot, meaning that according to the Torah, he's considered like he's with you. He's part of the same nation. But those people, אבל אותם האנשים שמכירם, שיש בהם אפיקורסות, מצווה לגנותם ולבזותם בין בפניהם או בין שלא בפניהם. But those people whom he knows to have apikosut, meaning they're heretics, they have heresy among them, it's a mitzvah to demean them and to shame them, both in their face and behind their back. In everything that he sees or hears about them. As we see in the Pasuk in Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 25, verse 17, and you shall not wrong one man his fellow, meaning you're not allowed to wrong another man that's your fellow, that's amitecha. Someone that's not part of that, it has nothing to do with him. So now, who are these people? He says anyone that's an apikos, anyone that's a heretic, anyone that's a min. Min is someone that gets other people away from Hashem, either because he's sending them to Avodah Zarah of Christianity or Buddhism, or even simply to go to the clubs. These club promoters, these DJs. Or someone that is a Mechalel Shabbat. Someone that's a Mechalel Shabbat is not considered Amitecha. Why? He's considered a Goy Lechol Davar, according to Din Torah. He's saying, according to Din Torah, all of the laws of Lashon Hara apply to someone that's considered part of your nation. Once someone, according to the Torah, is not considered part of your nation, none of these laws apply to them, and it's actually a mitzvah to say Lashon Hara about them. So when you say, this such and such is a heretic, and this such and such is a rasha, and this such and such is a kofer, and he's a Jew even with a beard longer than mine, it's irrelevant. There's no Lashon Hara at all. It's a mitzvah, actually. Why? You're exposing a rasha. You're exposing a rasha. It's actually an obligation. So, he uses a few different verses. Leviticus 25:17, Leviticus 19:16. Also Tehillim, where it says, do I not hate your haters, O Hashem? And against those who rise up against you, do I strive? Meaning the mitzvah of actually hating these people that hate Hashem. Anyone that's considered a kufer apikos, amin, is considered a hater of Hashem. Even if they say all day, Mi shema'amin lo mefached, ve'Hashem we love you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu we love you. They sing all the songs in the world. It means nothing. And one who denies the Torah and prophecy of Israel, both written, okay, so who specifically? He's giving the details, in case people think I used my own definition. Who's considered a hater of Hashem? He says, it's against those who rise up against you do I strive. He's using the Pasuk in Tehillim. Who are these people? It's anyone who denies the Torah, says, no, Torah, it's not real. It's a parable. It's a nice story. Or denies prophecy of Am Yisrael. Denies prophecy of Am Yisrael, saying, for example, it says in the Torah that Mashiach is going to come and save us. You say, nah, I don't think Judaism is depending on Mashiach, like somebody said today. Somebody publicized today or yesterday, a rabbi, saying, I think the biggest mistake the sages made was having the Torah depend on Mashiach. He calls himself a rabbi. This is a prophecy. This is also one of the 13 principles of faith. And even more so, it's part of our written and oral Torah. And the Chafetz Chaim continues, one who denies the Torah, one who denies prophecy of Israel, one who denies both the written and the oral law, is called a heretic, apikos. Even if he says that the entire Torah is from heaven, the whole Torah is from heaven, it's good, except this one verse. There's one verse in the Torah. Everything is from Hashem, except this one verse over here. One of them, no, it's not from the Torah. I'd say somebody else wrote it, using their logic. They were smart. They were smart, so they put something that fits in. He's not saying the guy is evil, he's bad, he's stupid. He's saying, no, it's good. It's just, that's not from Hashem. That one verse is not from Hashem. That's not enough? More. One klal. Someone not says that is a heretic because of one verse. He says one kal vachomer, one argument that we have that you got from one decision to the other. One decision to the other. He says someone, for example, the husband has to, it says that you have to keep Shabbat. And the woman is not bound by mitzvot that are bound to time. Woman is not bound, but it's a kal vachomer that she's obligated to keep Shabbat. He says, no, this kal vachomer is not for me. This kal vachomer is not from Hashem. It's not, it's from some rabbi, it's not for me. Or even one gezerah sha'ava, one is another way of arguing the Torah, of proving something. Or even more so, one diktuk. What's diktuk? One of the dots. Diktuk is our vowel system in the Torah. It's our punctuation system. You're saying we have a Sefer Torah, 304,805 letters. You're saying there's one point. No, it's not. That's not from Hashem. It's a mistake. One point. Consider a heretic. Meaning he went from the top to one, the Torah, the oral, or you agree with the written Torah, but not the oral Torah, that's the obvious. You agree with the oral Torah, but not the written, that's the obvious. You agree with the whole Torah except one verse, that's also obvious. You agree with the Torah except how they arrive at certain halachot, technically also obvious. What's not obvious? If you disagree that the Chachamim even put that point there. The point, the little dot. You're saying they just use their brain for that, and not Ruach HaKodesh, is not from Hashem, you're a heretic. And it's a mitzvah to publicize that you are. Mitzvah. There's no Lashon Hara. There's no dinim of Lashon Hara. So easy to become a heretic. Especially if you're a keyboard warrior. On the internet, they write all this stuff. Like this Rasha Merusha, David Kaplan, calls himself a rabbi with a shtreimel this big. The guy says that the dinim of wasting seed don't apply to this generation. They made a clip, took a clip out of a 3-hour shiur that I talked about wasting seed, 4-hour shiur. They took a 1.5-minute clip. I don't remember what it says, but talked about wasting seed. He writes, why is he scaring all of the teenagers? They're sinning anyway. They're going to do it anyway. It doesn't apply to our generation. This mitzvah of wasting seed doesn't apply to our generation. He's just scaring teenagers. Now let me ask you guys a question. I know that sometimes I say things that are scary, but did I ever say anything that's scary without providing you a source? Did I ever tell you, by the way, my opinion is, you drive and Hashem's going to kill you, my opinion? Or did I provide you a source? Did I ever provide something without giving you a source? If I did, please tell me, I'll fix it. Now, another thing, what do I get out of it? Like, did anybody ever think about it? What do you get out of it, of scaring people to death? What am I, a scary movie? What am I trying to sign up with Hollywood and say, Hollywood is going to come up with a new movie. Yaron Reuven is just going to talk the whole time. That's the movie. Like what? What do I get out of it? Like, does anybody ever think about this? Like, seriously, all the people say, oh, he's scary, scary. Okay, fine. I understand some of this stuff is scary. The Torah is scary. But does anyone ever think about it for a second? Like, what does he get out of it? If it's not true, what do you get out of it? Like, meaning, if what these people, this David Kaplan, and the other kofrim in the world that surround the world, infest the world with this stupidity, if all of these people are right, and what I'm saying is, I don't know, not relevant, or what do I get out of it? It's not like I have a crowd of 5,000 people in every keilah and have to rent out the Madison Square Garden on a weekly basis. It doesn't make you more popular. It's quite frankly, it's the opposite. It doesn't get you more money. It's the opposite. It doesn't get you more lovers. It's the opposite. It doesn't get you more love mail. It's the opposite. What do you get out of it? Does anybody ever just sit there and think, why would he talk about wasting seed and say that the Shulchan Aruch, that I can check with my own eyes, and my own eyes I can check it. I go on a computer, you don't even have to buy the whole thing. Just go on a computer, go Shulchan Aruch, the dinim of wasting seed. See what he says. Worst sin in all of the Torah. That's what he says. Worst sin in the entire Torah. You can check, go check. I just said it, I quoted you, go check. Go check. What do I get out of it if I'm lying? Does anybody ever think of such things? But that's the thing. Yetzer Hara, make sure you don't think. Why? There are people that look for the truth, and there are people that are looking for excuses. The Yetzer Hara has an endless supply of excuses if you're looking for them. He'll provide them to you. Just tell him that you're willing to take it. You're a customer. And that's the thing, Rabotai Karim, when we're talking about kufrin, people that say that such and such is not written in the Torah, such and such is not applicable anymore, such and such is not an obligation anymore, these people, Rabotai, are kufrim. These people are heretics. These people are minim, especially if they do it in public. Now, I've disagreed with some people. I have no problem. People disagree with me. I disagree with them. There's no problem of disagreement. But once you go out there and you tell people that you have the truth and your truth is against the Torah, you have a problem. Not just with me. You have a problem with HaShem. Because about you we're praying every day in Tfilat Shmona Esrei. למינים ולמלשינים אל תהי תקווה וכל הזדים כרגע יאבדו. For the heretics and the informers, let there not be any hope. And all the evildoers in an instant should perish. Meaning, all of these people, whether it's this David Kaplan, or this other guy that died this weekend, Baruch Hashem, Aaron Penkin, or anyone else that goes and distorts and perverts the Torah. I don't care if they're Dayan like Goldberg, or there's some guy that's trying to do well, but he's doing more harm than good like Asher Meza. Nice guy, but he's going off the derech completely lately. He wrote today that the mashiach shouldn't be a part of the foundation of Judaism, and the sages that's the biggest mistake they made. Come on, man. I understand you mean well. I understand you want people to convert, but you're becoming a kofer gamur. You're becoming a kofer gamur. And about such people, we pray negative things. What? Die. We pray for them to die. Meaning this guy, this guy, that reform guy that died, we said, Baruch Hashem. Why? Because we prayed for him to die. Finally it came true. Do we want him to die? No, we want him to live. We want him to do tshuva. But whichever happened first. Whichever happens first. Now, I know this is hard. I know it's hard to hear some of this stuff because people are related to them. People like them. People watch them. I even like some of these people. They're decent people. I went to Goldberg's house one time when I first moved to Boca. He's a decent person. He's not like, he doesn't murder people in the middle of the street. He doesn't drink blood in a Shulchan Shabbat. He's not a vampire. I met Asher Meza a couple of times. He's a decent guy. He's a decent guy, means well, got a big heart. He needs to get himself a rabbi, because I think that's the problem. And he needs to stop wasting his time debating every week. That's just my opinion, though. We have a different opinion of how to do things. We're both trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to get people to do tshuva. He's trying to get people to do something. I don't know really what the point is. Maybe become Jewish. The point is, we have a decent intentions. But the key is, if we have different ways of doing the same thing, no problem. No problem at all. You want to be Chabad, you want to be Breslev, you want to be some other Hasidut, Satmer, Orthodox, modern, Shmad, whatever you want, I don't care. But once you take the Torah from Shamayim and you make it into something else, you say the Chachamim were wrong. The Nevi'im were wrong. This is wrong. You start perverting things as if you're the new Rashi. Now we have a problem. Why? Because about you we pray bad things every day. About you there's a pasuk in the Torah that means bad. What? The prophet Isaiah, chapter 48, verse 22. Verse 22 comes after a story of after the prophet Isaiah tells Am Yisrael, if you do tshuva, good things are going to happen. In verse 17 it says, Hashem says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, says, I am Hashem your God, who instructs you for your benefit, who guides you in the way you should follow, meaning I give you mitzvot. You should follow them. I didn't just give it to you because just to enjoy the book and read it on your pastime. To follow what it says. Who guides you in the way you should follow. If you had hearkened to my commandments, your peace would flow like a river, and your righteousness like the waves of the sea. Meaning the amount of blessings you're going to get is going to be overwhelming how much good you're going to have. Children are going to come naturally. Raising them will become easy. Parnasah you're never going to have to worry about. Shlom Bayit you're never going to have any problems with. Your Torah you're going to understand it as if you infused it into your head. Everything will be good. You're going to have Gan Eden here. Goodness, blessings, everything will be here. It's going to flow like a river. On the other hand, what if you don't listen? You fast forward to verse 22. En shalom amar Adonai lareshaim. There is no peace to the wicked, Hashem said. You don't want to stay a rasha? You don't want to do tshuva? You don't want to do what the sages said? You don't want to do what Hashem said? You don't want to do what the prophet said? You don't want to do all these things? You want to make your own Torah? You're a rasha. No peace for you. No peace. Do whatever you want. There's an outcome for it. No peace between you and me. Hashem said it, not the prophet. Hashem. Hashem says no peace between you and me. En shalom Hashem amar l'reshaim. No peace. We do not negotiate with spiritual terrorists. There's no negotiation. There's no second, no third, fourth, fifth chances. Nothing. That's it. Finished. Now, for anyone who thinks that they're smarter than the sages, no, the sages didn't mean this, they didn't mean this, they didn't say this, they didn't say this. There's a couple of places in the Gemara, Masechet Eruvin, Masechet Shabbat, I think a few other places, but specifically these two, where any person that has just the smallest desire to get Da'at Torah, to get to the opinion of the Torah, first and foremost needs to know where they stand. Meaning, if I'm going to go, like people always ask me, why don't we learn Chavruta? Why don't we learn Chavruta? When we learn together? And my default answer is no. My default answer is no. Why? I'm busy trying to learn with my rabbi, trying to learn on my own, and also trying to do Kiruv, and trying to run the organization, and trying to do a lot of things. I'm trying a lot of stuff. I don't have time to do more than what I'm doing. I'm trying to do what I'm doing now, meaning I'm not even achieving what I'm trying to do. But there's also a little thing that I don't tell them. There's a little thing that I don't tell people of why I don't learn Chavruta. Is because if I had extra time to go learn, I'm not going to learn with you. I'm going to go learn with my rabbi. Or I'm going to learn with my rabbis. There's one rabbi or many rabbis. Which one? Rabbi is Rabbi Ephraim. I learn with him, Baruch Hashem, as often as I can, at least something every day. But rabbis is the Gemara, is the Chachamim. I'm going to learn with them. Or I'm going to learn with him. You I'm not going to learn with. Why? Because I know for sure them I have something to learn from. From them, I know for sure I can learn something from them. For sure. Why? They know a lot more than I can ever even imagine. Rabbi Ephraim, Baruch Hashem, Shtabach Shemol Adam, I personally think he's going to become one of the Gedolei Ador. You come to his house, books, how much he knows, things by... It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyone that's watched the shiurim, it's the simplest form of... Everybody thinks, oh, this is like a prepared shiur. He has books in front of them. He has this, is that. It's all off the cuff. Unbelievable. I know. I go learn with Rabbi Ephraim. Ask whatever subject you want. I'll give you 300 lectures about it. So I know I can learn from him. Chazal, even more so. You go open, you open books of just 150 years ago. Or Israel, 200 years ago. You pick Rav Avadia's books. You pick the Gemara, 2,000 years ago. You pick any of these books, you have endless amount of information that if you lived 1,000 years and you read 24 hours a day, you wouldn't be able to finish. From them, I know for sure I can learn something. You, not so much. With all due respect, I don't know you. I don't know what you know. I don't know what you don't know. But I know that if I don't have that much time to begin with. So if I'm going to spend that extra half hour, that extra hour learning, I want to make sure I'm going to learn. So why go to something that's a maybe? It's not a hobby. Learning Torah is not a hobby. I'm not playing tennis with you. Oh, we should learn together. Why? Why, I have nothing to do? Like, you have nothing to do. If you're learning, go learn with your rabbi. I'm going to learn with my rabbi. We're finished. If you want to learn from me, come to my shiur. So, when it comes to learning, you need to make sure to spend your time with someone you can learn from, unless you're teaching. So, with that being said, before you decide who you're going to learn with, you have to determine, is there something to learn from them? Now, if you're going to learn from the books, if you're going to go spend an hour of your day every day to learn from the books, you're going to learn Gemara, you're going to learn from the Chachamim, you need to know where you stand in comparison to them, because that should motivate you whether to accept or reject what they're saying. So the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says the following. If the Rishonim, they're saying this 2,000 years ago almost, about themselves. And it's saying, if the Rishonim, this is Rabbi Yochanan, if the Rishonim, the early sages, meaning the ones before him, Shmaya, Avtalion, before him, or a few hundred years before him, if the Rishonim were the sons of angels, then we are the sons of men. Meaning, if Shmaya, Avtalion, all the giants from just the previous generation to him, if they were considered, their chokhmah, their wisdom was considered as if they were the sons of angels, he says, we, him, at this stage, we're like the sons of men. Him, over there, he was able to revive the dead. He's the son of men. But if the Rishonim were the sons of men, if they were sons of men, then we are like donkeys. He's saying this about himself. We are like donkeys. But don't mistake, not like the donkeys of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa or Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, but rather like any other donkey. What do you mean like any other donkey? So first and foremost, we should understand, the people that are saying this, the person that's saying this, can literally pray, a person died, pray, he comes back from the dead, which he actually did. Bar Kapara, I told you guys a story about 2 months ago. Bar Kapara died, Rabbi Yochanan said, come back to life. A few days later, he came back to life. No problem. He's saying this about himself. He says, if his rabbis were like the sons of angels, he says, we are like the sons of men. If they were like the sons of men, we are donkeys. Not the sons of donkeys. We are the donkey himself. Imagine us now. But not even a good donkey, like the donkey that was owned by Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, and the donkey by Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Wow, what was so special about their donkeys? The Gemara says that the donkey of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, he would rent him out. He would rent out this donkey, and the donkey would know. They would know where to go home and everything, but that's not it. They would have to put the money of how much they owe Rabbi Hanina, and he would know how much they put in his bag, and he would not leave until they put the right amount. If it was too much or was too little, he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave. The donkey wouldn't leave. The donkey of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair one time was taken, and they tried feeding him, and he wouldn't eat. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, they're seeing this donkey's going to die. They bring him back to Rabbi Pinchas. They said, why is your donkey eating? He says, oh, you probably tried to give my donkey food that wasn't tithes. They didn't take out the maaser out of the food. He's not going to eat such food. You guys he's not at your level. He's a tzaddik. my donkey. The donkey is a tzaddik. So Rabban Yochanan is saying we're not even at the level of those donkeys. Him. So the Ben Ish Chai, Alav Shalom, in the beginning of his book, he says, anyone that's learning any of the things that the Chachamim were saying, the sages were saying from 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, if you understand they are at the level of angels, then you're at the level of a person. But if you can't even fathom the fact that they're from the level of angels, and they don't make mistakes, there's no mistakes by the sages. Like anyone that still thinks that the Rambam made a mistake, that Rabbi Akiva made a mistake, that Rabbi Meir Bar Anes made a mistake, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai made a mistake, if you think that they made a mistake, the Ben Ish Chai says, oh, it's okay, you're a chamor, it doesn't apply to you. The mitzvot don't apply to you, you're just a chamor, you're just a donkey. That's what the pshat of this pasuk is. That's what the pshat is. Meaning, today, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that think that their opinion matters. They tell you, maybe Moshe did this because he thought this. Maybe Rivka went this way because she went that way, because she thought this, she thought that. They applied their opinion to the Torah, and they pervert the Torah to no end. Now, it starts small, and it gets bigger and bigger over time. It's a mitzvah to talk against such people. Not because we want to be Baalei Machloket, we want to start creating debates between people or anything like that, because again, the Chafetz Chaim talks about that too. He says anyone that thinks that if you talk against these evildoers, these minim, these apikosim, this heresy, you're Baal Machloket, anyone that thinks that, he's one of them. He's one of the fools. It's mitzvah to talk against him too. Why? All you're doing is you're talking against Torah. How am I going to stand here and do nothing about it? So, it's important to know that there's a time to speak and there's a time to be quiet. There's a time to speak and there's a time to be quiet. Now, if you're going to learn Torah from your rabbi, there's a time to be quiet. Until it's time for questions. The rabbi said something, you don't understand, raise your hand and ask a question. Whatever format they have. If you have a question, you ask a question. No problem. If he's in the middle of teaching and it's not time for questions, you don't ask questions. If it's time for questions, if he says any questions any time or a specific time, you ask questions. Meaning there's a time to speak, there's a time to be quiet. If, on the other hand, someone is saying something against the Torah, he's saying Moshe Rabbeinu really didn't take Am Yisrael out of Egypt, he took them out of Harlem. He didn't take them out of Egypt, he took them to the Bahamas for vacation. He says something against the Torah, whatever it may be, it's all the same. That is not a time to be quiet. That is not a time to be quiet. You must do something. That depends the format. Now, on the internet in general, you shouldn't spend any time. At all. Like when people make these stupid remarks of how they think the Torah says this and it says something else or whatever it is, don't bother debating them. The reason why is because for the most part, on these forums, on these threads, no one is actually looking for the truth. People just want someone to listen to them. They're so miserable and lonely in their life. They have nothing going on. Apparently they're in between jobs maybe, or they're on a break, or their wife kicked them out, or their husband doesn't want to talk to them, or they have nothing to do in their life. So they spend it with their virtual friends, and they want to show their virtual friends just how smart they are. So if you tell them, listen, Mr. Virtual Friend, Mrs. Virtual Friend, what you said is wrong, she's not going to take it well, he's not going to take it well, and you're just going to go back and forth for 3 days, wasting each other's time, and getting nowhere anyway, because at the end of it, she'll say, we'll agree to disagree. What do you mean agree to disagree? We cannot agree to disagree. One of us is wrong. Now you've invested 3 days arguing that you're right. And she's saying, well, agree to disagree. He's saying, agree to disagree. It's the worst debate on the planet. You want to kill the person at that point. I want to debate you. You're telling me agree to disagree. No, don't agree to disagree. It's either we're right or we're wrong. If both of us are right, why are we debating? If both of us are wrong, we're both retarded. We should both to go to a mental institution. Can't agree to disagree on everything. So the reality is, on these forums on the internet, it's a complete waste of time. The people that are making these things, they're not looking for the truth. Rebuking them is a waste of time. But if you really care about this person or about what they're saying, you really care, do it privately. Send them a private message. Hey, Mr. Heretic. But say it in a nicer way. Hey, Mrs. Heretic. Mrs. Doubtfire. Hey, listen. You said Moshe Rabbeinu took Am Yisrael out of Egypt on the third day of the year. It wasn't. It was, say whatever you say, but do it privately. Why? Because that takes away the ego. At least half of it. If you do it publicly, she or he knows other people are watching. By default, they're going to fight you. Even if they know you're right. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, you're right. You know what? Yeah, maybe I should delete this. No. They're not going to delete it. They're going to fight you tooth and nail. So if you really care, do it privately. Same thing with YouTube videos. You disagree with the speaker? You don't like what he said? You don't like what she said? Send him a private message. Hey, by the way, I think you're a moron, but love you. Whatever you want to say, but say privately. Why? Because if you really care about your message, do it privately. Why? If the person is really wrong, what's the necessity of publicly insulting them? If they're really right, why are you sending them a letter in the first place? So the point is that if you really, really care, do it privately. In reality, in my opinion, I wouldn't bother for the most part with most people. With most people, because most people are not looking for the truth anyway. They're just looking to be heard. They just want their opinion heard. They love their opinion so much, you have to hear it. I have to tell you a story. I have to tell you. What is it? I'm really busy. Yeah, but I have to tell you. I have to tell you. Yeah, but I'm really busy. My wife, my cousin, my da-da-da. No, but I have to tell you. It's really important. It's really important. It's really important. You got to come early. You got to come late. You got to come here. You got to come there. I got to tell you. I got to tell you. I got to tell you. Okay, fine. I got there. No, what can I do for you? Oh, you got to hear this. I watched the news, and I was thinking that the president's going to come on, and the president came on. It's like prophecy. I said, this is what you stole a half hour of my life to do? To tell me that you clocked, that you gave a prophecy of a TV show? But to them it was important. Why? Because they want to be heard. It's even more so. Somebody reads a book, they have to tell everybody about the book and what they read and what their opinion is and what they got out of it. And we're going to start a book club now. All this nonsense. So, Rabotai Yekarim, all of these debates online, all of this stuff, please, 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 for heaven's sake, stop. It's mamash, a mitzvah from a Satan. He wants you to, instead of learning Torah from the sages, he wants you to spend it with a bunch of retards that have nothing to do with their life. One guy publicizes, the other, I don't know, whenever somebody sent me this, he said, people ask me what chassidut I'm a part of. And I tell them, I thought about this, and I thought about, he mentions different types of chassidut. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I know this guy. He's not Jewish. He's not Jewish. What part of chassidut? What chassidut? Chassidut doesn't apply to you. You're not Jewish. Chassidut is part of Judaism. So, you understand? But like they write this publicly. They're bored. They have nothing to do with their life. Don't be part of it. Don't enable them. Go open Gemara. Go open a Sifrei Tzadikim. Go open even a Siddur. Pray. Do something. Stop wasting your time. So, when it comes to these people, if you really care, you can't hold yourself back, do it privately. Rebuke them privately. Give them the message privately. But sometimes, there is no way. Sometimes, for example, if I mention names to you, it's because there is no other way. There is no other way that they would listen. There is no other way that the message will take effect like it's supposed to. I mention names because the message is not for the speaker anymore. if I mention a name, whether it's Goldberg, or it's this one, or it's Dror Kasuto, or it's the other guy from England, whatever his name is, Dwek, Shem Reshaim Yerkav, all of these people, by the time I mention their names, that means that the message is for their audience, not for them. For them, I know there's nothing I could do. There's nothing I could do. But their audience needs to know that they're being misled. And unfortunately, this is apparently one of the things that I need to do, because these stories keep coming to me. They keep coming to me like mamash, like it just every day there's a new story. Somebody came out the other day, they made a shiur, and they called it, don't be afraid of Gehenom, don't be afraid of hell, because that's the best part of it. So one of my students, teenager, maybe 16, 17 years old, sends me this clip. He tells me I'm really confused. The kid's from birth, but he's having some issues. Went off the derech, went back on, whatever. And he sends me, I need some chizuk, I'm confused here. I heard this shiur by a very, very well-known rabbi named Y.Y. Jacobson. Very well-known Chabad rabbi. And he's coming actually to Florida in like a week or two. On the flyer it says he's world-renowned. I don't really think he's world-renowned, but whatever, they write it on every flyer. It's like saying tzaddik bala'ir on every guy that has a beard. So anyway, he's a well-known speaker, motivates some people. He's from Chabad, speaks well, no problem. And he said he made a shiur that confused the kid. Why did it confuse the kid? He says because it says you have nothing to worry. The title says, don't worry about Gehenom. The shiur says even more. Not just Gehenom, Kafakela, you have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about this. You have nothing to worry about this. You have nothing to worry about, nothing to worry about. So the kid's saying, I'm confused. Why should I stay frum? Why should I continue keeping Shabbat? Why should I keep anything if I have nothing to worry about? This is SOS. I usually don't watch shiurim, unless it's my rabbi, or I have to watch a specific thing. But here I had to sit down and actually listen to the shiur. Half-hour shiur, I had to listen to every single word to see if the student misheard, or if the rabbi misspoke. So I told him before I watched the shiur, he's like, who do I listen to? I watch your Gehenom shiur and it scared me to death, but I'm doing tshuva. Baruch Hashem. But now this shiur is trying to, maybe I'm making a mistake. Who do I listen to? I said, before I watch the shiur, I can give you a simple answer. It's a very simple answer. What's the answer? Whoever provided the most sources. Whoever has most sources for what he said. The kid was like, Baruch Hashem, I have the answer already. So I said, okay, I'm in for a surprise. So I watched the shiur, a half-hour shiur, 29-minute shiur, mamash kaparat avonot. I must have made some serious sins in my life to watch the shiur. Why? Because I'm seeing somebody that's, for the most part, a decent human being from what I know, speaks well on every little clip that I ever heard, motivates quite a few people, reaches a lot of people, take the Torah, pile it into a couple of pieces of paper, spit on it, step on it, put some gasoline on it, and burn it into ashes. That's that shiur. That shiur is exactly that. It's the half hour of 100% human opinion that has nothing to do with the Torah, and in fact the opposite of the Torah. The opposite of the Gemara. The opposite of the 5 books of Moses. The opposite of Tanakh. The opposite of the Zohar. The opposite of Sifrei Mussar. The opposite of Da'at Torah, of all of the Chachamim that have ever written about the subject. No one in the history of Am Yisrael from previous generations ever said what was said on this shiur. This infestation only started in this generation. He's not the first one. So now, I sent him a letter in a couple of different ways. I figured, okay, maybe LinkedIn is not going to work, so I'll send it on email. Maybe email's not going to work, so I send it in a few different ways, make sure that mail gets to him. And I said, listen, I understand in so many words. I don't remember all the letter on the top of my head, but a relatively short letter. I read the shiur and everything I just told you guys, and I said, listen, I understand the topic of Gehenom is a very difficult subject. It's very difficult. I know personally, between us, when I studied the topic, I started crying. It's a very difficult shiur, and if you guys think that you know everything from my shiur about Gehenom, you don't even know 1%. As hard as it was, it's not even 1% of the truth. As hard as it was. So, if you understand it and you realize it's all true, it's very, very difficult to learn. It's very difficult to teach. You feel bad for people. Like, you're looking at people, it's like, oh, shit, this guy's got to go to Gehenom. He's scared. He has no idea what's coming to him. You look at people, it's like, wow, this guy's going to Gehenom. He's scared. Look at people. That's how you should look at people. This guy's going to Gehenom. He's scared. He's scared. He's scared. He doesn't know what truck is coming right to him. He doesn't know. So, I told the guy, I understand the topic is difficult. But if you already chose to speak about it, speak about kafakela, speak about Gehenom, why pervert the Torah into something that it's not? A few other people from Chabad wrote articles about it years ago on their website, chabad.org. And I read the article maybe 7 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever it was. I wrote to the writer of one of the articles, I actually want to visit this place you're describing. It sounds like so much fun. Huh? They repost it all the time. They repost it all the time. Right, every year they repost it. And they also don't allow my comments. They don't, no, because my comments provided a bunch of sources of all the things that he's wrong about. Which sources, which page numbers, which Gemarot, which Zohar. I put a lot of work into it. What do? Delete. Chas v'shalom, Da'at Torah will infiltrate our articles. Chas v'shalom, the Torah will actually be in there. We have to use only opinion. So I told them, listen, a couple of other people made this mistake. I tried reaching out to them to no avail. I'm trying to reach out to you. I respect you as a speaker. I respect you as a rabbi. No problem. Please, why are you perverting the Torah? Either restudy the subject, realize how wrong it is, and have a new shiur correcting the one that you have, or just delete this one and go back to the other strategy that you have of doing Kiruv, whatever way you're doing it. Otherwise, don't talk about Gehenom. There's no obligation to talk about Gehenom. It's not one of the 613 mitzvot that if you're a speaker you have to talk about Gehenom. You don't have to. Either delete it or put a new shiur. What do I get? Deaf ear, silence, nothing. I've already been waiting for a week something. Nothing. Why? Because it's to no avail. They're not interested in the truth, unfortunately. They're not interested in the truth. And the reason why, Rabotai, is because the truth sometimes hurts. The truth is very difficult to deal with. When we came out with the post on Friday, a 230-page or approximately 230-page book of over a 6-month investigation by professionals, by rabbanim, by avrechim, by investigators, by priests, by all types of people that are experts in their field on the whole issue of wigs and the avodah zarah that's happening in India. There too. But in India, they put a book together full of halachot, full of pictures, full of different things from the Torah. It's not just pictures of India. It's Torah. The whole thing is Torah, Da'at Torah. These are real serious people. One person came back and said, yeah, but if Rav Moshe Feinstein made an halakha that it's allowed to eat the hair that's in L-cysteine, that's part of food, that they use for bread. They use, in order to soften bread, like you have the cakes and different things, they stay soft for a while. It's because, part of the reason is because they use something called L-cysteine. L-cysteine is made from hair. So there is a kosher way to do it. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said that there is a kosher way to do it because by the time it becomes the chemical they use in bread or different cakes and so on, it's not really, it doesn't have any flavor. Once something doesn't have any flavor, it loses its form. It's no longer what it was. Even gelatin, for example. Gelatin is made from bones. Specifically, the most common way is to be made from bones of pigs because the cheapest animal. Now, gelatin, if it has flavor, it's not allowed. So if you go to the regular 7-Eleven or store, you want to buy gummy bears, you will not see a kosher symbol on it. You will not see a kosher symbol on it. But then if you go to the kosher store, you'll see gummy bears or something like it, and they have kosher on it. How? They both use gelatin. You look at the ingredients on the back. This one has gelatin. This one has gelatin. So how is this gelatin any different than this one? Because that's the main ingredient that distinguishes kosher, not kosher. So how come the gelatin over here at 7-Eleven, no good, but at kosher market is good? How come? There's gelatin. Two reasons. Number one is because sometimes they use the gelatin of fish bones. And the second reason, sometimes they actually destroy any flavor of the gelatin to the point where there's no flavor at all. And the Rav Ovadia pasak la'alacha that if it has no flavor, you're allowed to use it. You use it in pills. A lot of pills and tablets have it, and so on and so forth. If it doesn't have any flavor, then you're allowed to use it. So apparently the gelatin in non-kosher products still has flavor, and gelatin in kosher products does. The point is that there's ways to say good, there's ways to say bad. Now Rav Moshe Feinstein said, alav shalom, said that if you use these L-cysteine that's made out of hair, it's allowed. So if it's allowed to eat hair, then it's allowed to wear it. Isn't that logical? I said, this is the most distorted way of looking at Torah. This is naval, birshut Torah, despicable with permission from the Torah. Why? Because what Rav Moshe Feinstein is talking about is hair that's regular hair from people, from animals, from so on, that's being used in food. We're talking about hair that's being used as a korban, as a sacrifice in India. These are two different worlds. And how do I know it's two different worlds? Because Rav Moshe Feinstein died 30 years before the whole issue with India started. He wasn't there for the argument. He wasn't there for the research. You can't. So it's like, but people will pick and choose from different places, making it seem as if it's Torah. They'll tell you that Rambam said such and such. Okay, yes, he did. But what came out to halacha is not that. So the point is, Rabotai, is that it's very, very important to have a strong foundation. It's very important to have a strong foundation where you know for sure what's the truth. You need to know for sure what is the truth. If you don't know what the truth is, you have to exert every little bit of effort that you have, every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears that you have, chasing that truth. To such an extent that Shlomo HaMelech said, you have to chase it like you chase treasure. You have to chase it like you chase treasure. Why? That's the only way, Shlomo HaMelech says, that's the only way you'll arrive at Yirat Shamayim. By chasing the truth like it's treasure. If I told you, listen, I hid $20 million somewhere in Florida. Hint, it's in Hollywood. You guys, what are you going to do? You're going to leave the shiur in the middle and you're going to start looking for the $20 million. You start digging under the house, under the fridge, under this, you start digging everywhere. You start getting excavators and everything. Why? There's $20 million somewhere. There's a prize at the end. There's a prize at the end. I have to do whatever I can to get it. Shlomo HaMelech, the smartest man of all time, the wisest man of all time, says, Da'at Torah, you have to chase it like you chase treasure. It's the only way to get it. But this is why for all of those people that still are convinced that Torah is full of Care Bears, it's full of gummy bears, it's full of nice things, Baruch Hashem, Hashem Yitbarach gave us this week's parasha, Parashat Bechukotai. In Parashat Bechukotai, there's no mistake about it. There's no two ways of reading it. Because people, for example, like Asher Meza, he hates the Zohar. He hates the Zohar, and people like him, many of these Zionist type mentality people, modern Orthodox type mentality, they hate the Zohar, they hate the mystical aspects, they try to reject it in many ways, in many cases even insult it, which is completely stupid regardless. Even if it's not, even if it is, it's still not something you would insult, because there's enough geniuses that were Kodesh Kodeshim in the world that accepted it. If Rabbi Ovadia accepted it, if the Stipler Gaon accepted it, if the Vilna Gaon accepted it, if the Arizal accepted it, you're better than them? You're better than the Arizal? You're better than Chafetz Chaim? You're better than Rabbi Ovadia? You're better than all these people? You, in the year 2018 to the Christian calendar, you figured it out. You figured it out all along. You're the one, that's it. Everyone was waiting for you to say, oh, this is not good. That you came from YU University, they taught you. YU over there, yeah, Arizal doesn't have anything on you. You're better than him. The Vilna Gaon, you're better than him too. Oh, Vadia, you're better than him. You're better than all of them. You with your 5 years of education. You're better than all of them. The 20 books that you read, the 30 books that you read, you're better than all of them. The level of chutzpah that people have is simply ridiculous. They think, no, but Chazal was just regular people. Chazal were regular people. On you it is written, Ben Ish Hai writes, he says, these people are purely donkeys. People that think that Chazal, that the sages were regular people, and they would make the same mistakes like us, are simply donkeys. They're pturim from all mitzvot. You don't count them for minyan even. These people are donkeys. They're not regular people. Now, the Chidah says the Torah has 4 parts. It's called Pardes. Pardes is acronym for Pshat, Remez, Drash, Vesod. Pshat is simple meaning of the Torah. You read 5 books of Moses, you have the Pshat. Simple meaning, what it says. Moshe took Am Yisrael from Mount Sinai. Took Am Yisrael from Egypt, brought them to Mount Sinai. That's the Pshat. Remez is you're going to learn different things that are hinted. Like, for example, when it says Vayihi, in Parashat Beshalach, the verse starts with the word Vayihi. We know from the Chachamim that Vayihi is like Oivei, bad news. Something happened. What happened? We learn. Drash is like the Midrashim. Midrashim, things that are behind the scenes and so on. And Sod is secret. Secret, mystical things. Angels coming down, angels going up, all this mystical stuff. A lot of people like it. Some people hate it like they hate cancer. Specifically, people that are from the modern Orthodox world, for some reason or another, they're like allergic. Some of them, not all of them obviously, some of them are like allergic to mystical Judaism. For whatever reason or another, apparently these people, these types of mentality that hated mystical Judaism, has been around for a long time. So the Chidah says that the Torah, without the Sod, the last part, instead of Pardes, it's just Pered. What's Pered? Donkey. The Torah without mysticism is not Torah. Mystical aspects of the Torah are not a part of the Torah. They are the Torah. The entire Torah is mystical. The entire Gemara is mystical. The entire 5 books of Moses is mystical. There's nothing natural about our Torah. Nothing. What, do you think that it's natural that Avraham Avinu is willing to slaughter his kid that he waited for 100 years? You think that's natural? That a person came from nothing, Hashem created him, called him man, and then he took his rib and he made a wife out of it? You think that's natural? That Hashem took a man, his wife, his 3 kids and their wives, put them into a little boat, a little submarine with some animals, and started the whole world anew from them? You think that's natural? That Hashem made the #1 most powerful civilization in history, Egypt, that the entire world was paying them taxes. The entire world was a slave to them. He made them into the slave and the slave into the master. You think that's natural? You think there's anything that's not mystical out of it? You think that the 10 plagues are natural? You think that Mount Sinai is natural? Hashem opened up the 7 heavens? Or even us getting the Torah? Even Hashem talking to man? Even the simplest of all prophets, the last of all prophets, Ezekiel, he saw things that are in Shemaim. You think that's natural? That's not mystical? The entire Torah is mystical. You think that if a rabbi prays for a certain person and the person is healed, you think that's natural? I'm not talking about 2,000 years ago. I'm talking about today. Today I'm talking about. Miracles you see every single day. Every single day you see it. The fact that you exist, the fact that you have these 2 little balloons and you call them eyes and they work. And they clean themselves. And they wash themselves. And they're thinner than a balloon. And they move wherever you need them to move. You think that's natural? No, that's physiology. That's your physics. That's your... There's nothing natural about physics. There's nothing natural about your body. There's nothing natural about anything. There's nothing natural. You not believing in mysticism, it's pretty much you're not believing in a reality. Mystical Judaism, mystical Torah is reality. It's like somebody saying, I don't believe in gravity. Okay, you know what? Let's test it out. Jump out of a plane. Let's see what happens. Jump out of your house, out of the second, third, fourth, fifth floor, depending on how many floors you have. Jump out. Let's see what happens. We don't believe in gravity, so it's not going to happen, right? So all of these people, the Chida is saying, these people are just simply donkeys. Now, I'm not saying you have to advocate for it. I'm not saying you should even teach it. Quite frankly, I don't think most people should learn it. Because most people don't understand Da'at Torah. They need to start with ABC. They need to start with Parashat Shavua. They need to start with Moshe Rabbeinu. They need to start with Avraham Avinu. Basic. Parasha with Rashi. Then after that, we start learning some basics of Halakha. How do I conduct my day? Then after that, we start learning a little bit of Gemara. Then we start learning some of the roots of it. You go to Shulchan Aruch, you go to Mishnah, and so on and so forth. You learn Mussar, and so on and so forth. Mystical parts of Judaism are going to come anyway along the way. But to go and spend your time learning the Zohar, unless you're an expert of experts, and everything I just mentioned plus 10 times more, you shouldn't touch it. Because you're not going to understand it anyway. So I'm not saying everyone should learn it, and I'm not saying anyone should teach it. But to say you simply don't believe in it, and it's nonsense, and it's heresy, and it's not Judaism, all of these things, it's completely ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion. It's an egotistical notion, because you're thinking you're greater than all of the giants that came before you, that did believe in it. So you're saying you're bigger than the Baba Sali? You're saying you're bigger than the Steipler Gaon? You're bigger than Rav Moshe Feinstein? You're bigger than the Chafetz Chaim, the Chida, the Arizal, the Vilna Gaon, the Rabbi Akiva? You're bigger than all of them? That's it? Everyone, the whole world was waiting for you? Okay, maybe you're Mashiach. If you're Mashiach, no, Digal Otanu, yalla, save us. Save us, and that's it. Why are we even suffering anymore? That's it. Why we have Shiur Torah? Just come, save us, and finished. And that's the thing, Abotai, is that a person needs to know, if there's something they don't understand in the Torah, it's not because the Torah is lacking. It's because you're lacking. We are lacking. We are lacking. You don't understand because you didn't learn hard enough. You don't believe because your brain is full of tum'ah. Your neshama is infested with spiritual garbage. Now, if you were going to have a special guest coming to your house, the Mashiach was invited to your house, okay? Mashiach called you, hey, listen, I'm coming over. Come, Mashiach, to my house, is Yofi, is it Kiv? Okay, wife, kids, everybody shower, everybody clean, everybody this, everybody this. The walls have to be painted. The ground has to be redone. Everything has to be done. All of a sudden, we're only an hour away. Your little kid runs outside, plays in the mud, in the rain, in the mud, in the rain, in the mud, in the rain, and he comes, and the Mashiach comes inside, and the kid with the mud on his face like this is coming, "Hi, Mashiach." What are you going to do with the kid? You're going to grab the kid and put him in a shower and start spraying him. You can't look like this next to Mashiach. You're filthy, disgusting with all this mud on you. It's cute for us, but not in front of the Mashiach. It's cute, but not in front of the Mashiach, not in front of the special guest. When Hashem wants to give you a chidush, when Hashem wants to give you the Holy Torah, you can't come to Him filthy with sins. If you're filthy with sins, if you're infested with sins, you can't come to Him and say, "Oh yeah, Hashem, that chidush you wanted to give me, you know, there's chidushim in Shemayim for everybody. That chidush, give it to me now." What? Give it to you now? You just wasted seed. You just stole some money. You just looked at the girl that's not your wife. You just did this. You want me to give you a chidush? You're lucky you're still alive. You cannot expect to learn Torah if you're infested with sins. Now, all of these people that have their own opinion are going to tell you, no, why? I read, you read. I read, you read. What's the difference? We both read. Now, anyone that has an ounce of intellect knows that's complete nonsense. Many people read, but not everybody is Gdol Ador. Many people read, but not everyone's a genius. Many people read, but not everybody remembers or understands what they read. You read and I read means nothing. You learn and I learn means nothing. You can learn for 5 hours and I can learn for 5 minutes. I may get more than you, or the opposite. I learn for 5 hours, you learn for 2 minutes, and you get more than me. Why? Hashem gives chokhmah. Moshe Rabbeinu came to Hashem after 40 days, 40 nights. He said, Hashem, everything you taught me, one-on-one, you're the best chavuta in the world. Unfortunately, I forgot everything. What's the point? I went, I did, I forgot everything. He says, continue learning, and I'll gift it to you. After 40 days, he just gave me the entire Torah and a silver platter. That's how the Torah is. But if you're filthy with sins, and gava, and ego, and your own opinion, and your own this, and your own that, and you think you run the world, and you think that the world cannot revolve without you, you're not getting anything. All you're getting is mistakes. Every word that comes out of your mouth is a sin. So please, do us all a favor. Do yourself a favor. Be quiet. It's better for you. It's better for you. Just be quiet. Don't teach. Or if you get better yet, just be a parrot. Read. Read what it says. You know, it's more productive anyway. It's more productive anyway. But for all of those that learn it, before you watch any speaker, double check. What are they saying? Where are they coming up with this stuff? Did he provide a source? Did anybody say it before him? Someone that everyone agrees is reliable? Chafetz Chaim is reliable. Okay, if Chafetz Chaim was speaking, he's reliable. I can listen to him. Rav Ovadia is reliable. The Gemara is reliable. There are certain things that are reliable. His opinion is not reliable. It's like somebody came to a restaurant and he says to them, is it kosher here? You're asking if it's kosher. Look at the wall. Baba Sali, Chafetz Chaim, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Look at all the pictures I have. He goes, hey, listen. If they were here giving me the food and you were on the wall, I'd buy the food. But since it's them in the pictures and you here, I have to ask you, is it kosher? They're reliable, but they're not here. They're just on the wall. That's what we have to understand. Before you watch any speaker, before you attend any lectures, before you read any book, double check. Double check. A lot of times people send me questions and the question is wrong. The question itself is wrong. And I ask them, where'd you get the question from? And they tell me a book. I say, oh yeah, look who the author is. The author is a Reformed Jew. The author is Christian. The author is some guy that doesn't believe in God. The question is wrong. It's not that the answer. There's no answer. The question is wrong. So that's, Rabotai, it's important for us to know that we need to have a strong foundation. And the reason why is because today, we're a generation of either you're going to be complete tzaddik, complete rasha. No more middle ground. No more 50-50. It's either you're going to spend your entire day watching television and wasting your life, or you're going to be doing tshuva. It's either going to be continuing to make sins and justifying them, or you're going to find a way to do tshuva for the things that you did and the things you don't even remember doing. The point being is that it's time to make a choice. And the choice is becoming more and more difficult to make because of all of the different tools that the Yetzer Hara is using to get us all to fail. He's using the kids, he's using wives, he's using children, he's using husbands, he's using teachers, he's using food, he's using major rabbis, small rabbis, local rabbis, distant rabbis, Jews, non-Jews. He's using every tool he has. Why? This is his last hurrah. This is the last chance. Last chance to destroy you. You make it now, you make it forever. Destroyed now, destroyed forever. No more tshuva. So this is critical. It's critical for all of us to learn this week's parasha. This week's parasha, Bechukotai, it's a Behar and Bechukotai, but Behar is very short. Bechukotai, if you never did the mitzvah, Shulchan Aruch says you have to read the weekly parasha 3 times. Shtay mikra v'chad targum. You have to read it 3 times. If you never did it before, do it this week. make sure you read it with commentary, and make sure you read it in a language you understand. Don't be a hero, read it in Hebrew, unless you know Hebrew extremely well. Meaning, you know Sfat HaKodesh. Otherwise, read it in English, or Spanish, or whatever language you speak. Read it in that language and read it with commentary. You have to make sure you know what it says. So when it gets to the part where it says the 5th level of sin is to get to such level of starvation where the Am Yisrael is going to eat their own children, Hashem Erachem, you say, oh wait, Yaron said that. I guess he wasn't making it up. It's actually in the Torah. It's actually in the Torah. And it's not the only place. There's several other places. You need to know this stuff. Because this is what gets us to stop sinning. This is what gets us to stop sinning. Any questions?
Rabbi,
yes.
you said you read it 3 times with commentary, correct?
Commentary once with 3 times you have to read it basic, and once with commentary.
So, or
No, twice regular, and the 3rd time with commentary.
With Rashi.
Right. Rashi. I know the camera's still on, so you guys are shy. But as soon as I turn it off, the shyness goes away. Has anybody read this book yet? I gave it to a few of you. All Israel? All Israel? It's a very good book. It's dense, but it's a good book. I'll tell you some things about it later this week, B'ezrat Hashem. I was going to tell you today, but we ran out of time. No? Say we covered the entire Torah? Wait, you guys debating whether you can ask the question or not? Same price. Ask the question.
Why can Rabbi Yehuda Nasi be, why do we say he's Mashiach in his generation if he came from the mother of Yehuda? Because he was a Nasi.
Right.
And the Reish Galusa was on the father's side of Yehuda, and the Nasi was on the mother's side.
Meaning, you're asking if he was from King David?
No, he was, but there was mother, so how can we say that he was Mashiach in his generation?
I believe that he came from Rabban Gamliel's family. So Rabban Gamliel's family came from David HaMelech, from the father's side, I believe, also. I don't remember the lineage of how he goes directly from him all the way to David HaMelech, but I believe he's from Tzeitzai David. But regardless of that, the Mishnah, the Gemara over there, I think it's Sanhedrin, page 80-something, 88 maybe. Says different possibilities of Mashiach. I may be wrong about the page, don't hold me to it. It gives different names. This is actually the source that Chabad, the Messianic ones, use as the source for why they think that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is Mashiach, because one of the names, one of the possible names that's mentioned in the Gemara is Menachem. What they don't tell you is that it gives the last name for that specific Menachem. It also gives the other part of his name, which the Lubavitcher Rebbe did not have that name. But anyway, before that, it says if the Mashiach came at the generation of Daniel, the prophet Daniel, it would be Daniel. If it came at the generation of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rebbe, the original Rebbe, it would be Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Also, we have another Gemara, I believe it's in Masechet Shabbat, which says that Hashem actually decided that the Mashiach was going to be Chizkiyahu the king, Chizkiyahu HaMelech. But then, because Chizkiyahu did not sing to Hashem like David HaMelech, his grandfather, then Hashem said that this is a kitrug, this is a case against Chizkiyahu, and therefore he's not going to be the king. He was going to make him king, but then the Yetzer Hara, Malach HaMavet, the Satan came to Hashem, says, how are you going to make Chizkiyahu the Mashiach, and you didn't make his grandfather Mashiach? His grandfather, David HaMelech, sang for you, Tehillim, and celebrated your name. Chizkiyahu, you just made a miracle for him, and he didn't sing for you. He says, you're right, he's not even at the level of his grandfather, he's not going to be Mashiach. Meaning that we were literally one song away from already being in almost 3,000 years of Mashiach. We missed out. So, either way, what the Gemara is, in essence, trying to teach us in all of these different places is that there are always going to be different possibilities of who Mashiach is going to be. Meaning it's not a single person per se that's the first and last possibility. In fact, in every single generation, there is always going to be one person that can be Mashiach, that has the potential to be Mashiach. Doesn't mean that he will be Mashiach, but he has the potential to be Mashiach. And it says in another Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Yeshua ben Levi meets his best friend, Eliyahu Navi. He says, then when's Mashiach going to come? He says, go ask him. And he says, where is he? He says, he's at the gate of Rome. He goes to the gate of Rome. And he looks, there's a bunch of people that are injured, wounded from the war, and so on. And he sees each person has wounds everywhere, and they're taking off one dressing after another, one dressing after another. And they're taking off all of their dressings, and then they cover themselves back up because it's full of blood, they cover themselves back up. But the Mashiach is only taking one at a time and then replacing it. One at a time and then replacing it. He says, how come you're doing it different? He says, because at any moment, they can call me to be Mashiach, I have to be ready. He says, when are you coming then? If you're the Mashiach, and you have to be ready at all times, when are you coming? He says, tomorrow I'm coming. Tomorrow I'm coming. Yeshua ben Levi was so happy. He went back, started getting prepared, everything good. Next day came, he didn't come. So he goes back to Eliyahu Navi, he says, how come he didn't come? He lied to me, this Mashiach. Is Mashiach a liar? He goes, no, you just didn't understand him. What he was telling you tomorrow, he's referring tomorrow. If you do tshuva tomorrow, I'll come tomorrow. Meaning, if Am Yisrael does tshuva tomorrow, I'll come tomorrow. If you don't do tshuva tomorrow, I'm not coming tomorrow. Meaning, from here we learn that the Mashiach is in essence available at all times. And the same message that Moshe Rabbeinu said to us 3,300 years ago, that every one of the prophets said after him, whether it be Yeshua ben Nun, or it be any of the elders, or it be Isaiah, Zechariah, Ezekiel, Amos, Yonah, every one of them said the same exact message. What's the message? When you do tshuva, Mashiach will come. The soul itself was created already at the beginning of the world. The soul of the Mashiach is available since the beginning of the world. Part of the soul is David HaMelech, part of the soul is the soul of Moshe Rabbeinu. And every one of these generations that's going to have major chachamim, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, or the Arizal, or any of these majors, is always going to have a spark of that neshama. So for example, one of you, I think you said the other day, that some rabbi told in a drasha that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was really the Gilgul of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's not true. What is true, or what he was trying to tell you, is that HaShem, when he brings us a special neshama to the world, a neshama that has major potential, he's going to give it a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu in him. It's not the Gilgul, it's not the reincarnation of Moshe Rabbeinu, but he's going to put, in order to give this neshama a special ability to become a giant, he's going to give a special spark in them. Doesn't mean that they will become, they still have free choice. But if they succeed, they can succeed in a big way. If they fail, they can fail in a big way. Meaning every single person could be Moshe Rabbeinu or Bilam. So now, back to the question. As far as Mashiach and who and what and all that stuff, we're only going to find out once he's here. As far as all the times that it's mentioned in the Gemara and different parts of the oral Torah of different possibilities, that is all simply to teach us that there's always a possibility for Mashiach to come at every single generation. And if it was during the generation of the Rebbe HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, then it would have been him, because one of the requirements for someone to be the Mashiach is that all of the Chachamim, not a single exception, every single Chacham, every single acceptable Chacham in the entire world has to agree he's the Mashiach. That's the one thing that cannot be disputed. Meaning the Mashiach is not going to be a debate. Oh, I think he's Mashiach, but you don't think he's Mashiach. Okay, therefore, so one of you is wrong. No. The Mashiach, one of the major requirements is that everyone has to agree he's Mashiach. This is by default also one of the principles, one of the reasons why the Lubavitcher Rebbe cannot be the Mashiach. Because the vast majority of the world does not agree he's the Mashiach. That by default already makes him not a Mashiach. And as a matter of fact, there's someone that sent me a letter, told me that he himself asked the Rebbe 30 years ago, whatever it was, are you a Mashiach? He sent him a letter. He sent him a thing, are you the Mashiach? And the Lubavitcher Rebbe actually sent him a letter, explained to him all of the reasons of why he cannot be the Mashiach. While he was alive, he wrote him a letter, explained to him all the sources from the Torah of why he cannot be the Mashiach. And the guy was so impressed, so amazed by it, he showed it to his Chabad friend that was calling the Rebbe Mashiach already while he was alive. The Chabad friend told him, let me see, I want to make a copy out of it. He ran away and moved away. He took the letter, and the letter ceased his existence. So, people that are fanatic, they're going to make the truth into what they want it to be. So, but the point of what the Torah is trying to constantly teach us is that Mashiach is here. When? Now. What has to happen in order for him to be exposed to the world? We have to be ready. Am Yisrael has to be ready. The world has to do tshuva. We have to do tshuva. Personally, as much as I would love for Mashiach to come tomorrow, I really don't want him to come. Because I don't think that enough people have done tshuva, based on my human opinion. Of course, HaShem knows when, how, who, what. He doesn't need my help. But the point is that for all of those that are worried about Mashiach, of what, when he's going to come, all of that stuff, you're wasting your worry. You should be worried about doing tshuva. So it's an interesting subject, no doubt about it. I think Rabbi Zitron, my dear friend from New York, made a nice series about Mashiach. He researched that topic for maybe 20 years. Researched the topic of Mashiach. He has a lot of information about it beyond the scope of this shiur. You guys could definitely watch the shiurim and learn about Mashiach if you want to. But the Rambam himself said, to talk about Mashiach is not going to help you. It doesn't help you with Yirat Shamayim, and it doesn't help you with Ahavat Hashem. It's interesting, it's mentally stimulating, but it should not be the main topic of conversation. It should not be the main thing that you should focus on, because I've seen a few people in the last 4 years that have focused on Mashiach, and they've become fanatic, and they ended up, doing things that a rational person wouldn't do. Whether that irrational move would be just to pick up and leave their family and move to, to Israel, or they would be like selling all of their assets and quitting their job and like getting ready, like doing all types of things that crazy people do, and eventually, either they ran out of steam or they will run out of steam, and they could crash completely and become kufrin. So, as much as we would like to the Mashiach to come, the reality is we should really more be concerned about functioning without him being here yet, and doing tshuva, so when he's here, we're not scratching our head, I wish I would have done tshuva. We know already. So I don't know if that answered your question completely, but I think I covered part of it at least. Next. Anybody? Avraham Avinu was not a Jew either. Yes, Avraham Avinu. That's what they wrote over here. Avraham Jew. Yes, Avraham Avinu was a Noahide. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking.
The comment. They usually don't see the comments. This comment actually. Yeah, Avraham Avinu was a Noahide. He was before Matan Torah, but he followed most of the Torah with the exception of certain laws that he's not allowed to follow, like Shabbat and so on.
Given the principle that, every generation, this generation, the previous one, is higher, or...
We're getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Right.
So given that principle, can we say anyone or from any generation has been or can reach a level that is higher than Moshe Rabbeinu?
No, there's a verse in the Torah. There's a verse in the Torah that specifically says that that's not possible for anyone to ever be higher than Moshe Rabbeinu, because Hashem himself wrote, no one will ever rise to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. Meaning that anyone that believes otherwise, whether because they call themselves Chabad, or they call themselves a different level of Chassidut, or Christianity, or anything else in the Torah, anything else in the world, anyone that says that their rabbi, their friend, they themselves, or anyone in the world could ever be greater than Moshe Rabbeinu, that is considered a violation of the 13 principles of faith. That person cannot be counted in a minyan. That person has his Judaism on suspension. That person is considered 100% a heretic. As a matter of fact, I have a letter here from one of the Gdolei Hador in the United States, Rabbi Yaron Reuven, from Baltimore. And he already wrote a letter, this is some years ago, where someone asked him about the opinion of the Chabad and the Messianics and so on. And anyone that wants to copy, I mean, it's in Hebrew. I could give it to you. I could send it to you if you'd like. It's available online. It's not a secret. But he was talking about there's three different types of, for example, these Chabad, for example, that's usually the problem with Messianic. There's three types of Chabad. There's real Chabad, which have Yirat Shamayim, which are based on Chassidut, which is above and beyond Halacha, which is focused on HaShem, on His Torah, and so on. And then there's everyone else. And everyone else is mostly divided up into being Messianics, where they believe that the Rebbe was Mashiach. And some of them even got to the point where they became Elokistim. Elokistim meaning they believed that he became one with God. So, he says, "B'tshuva lemichtavcha, elai ubo." I'll fast forward to the main thing. He calls them. He says, "Tshuva psak she'em bichlal aminim." He calls these people that are messianics minim. Minim is the same people that we've described for the last 2 hours. That you're not allowed to count them in minyan. You're not allowed to include them in any Jewish ceremony. Here specifically, is talking about these Elokistim. These Elokistim are considered minim. Now, as far as the Messianics, the Elokistim are considered minim, that cannot be counted as a part of a minyan. But when it comes to these Messianics, the ones that say that the Rebbe is Mashiach, he says, aval ha-Mashiachistim en lahem din shel apikos. They're not considered heretics. They just believe that the Rebbe is Mashiach. B'klal amitecha ve'edotam v'shchitatam ksherot. You can still accept their kashrut according to him, and you can include them in a minyan. But there's a sakana. There's a danger. What's the danger? That they will influence you with their ideas. And according to him, I mean, it's a relatively longer letter. He says, according to him, he says, I would not include them in anything. And also, he actually uses the same Gemara that you mentioned, actually, in regards to Sanhedrin. I wouldn't include them. I wouldn't eat their food. I wouldn't include them on anything else because their their ideas are so distorted that they're not reliable. They're not reliable state of mind. Anyone that thinks that the Rebbe is a Mashiach is not a stable person. So the point is, this tshuva has been around for some time. Okay, this is a 63. So this is already 15 years ago. This came out 15 years ago. The point being, Rabotai, is that people have had this tshuva available for 15 years. But for the most part, you probably have never heard of this. I never heard of this until recently. And people don't care. And the reason why is because everybody's going to make up their mind, and everyone has a friend that goes to Chabad, and everyone has a friend that says the Rebbe is Mashiach, and everyone likes the parties and the chulent and the Fabring and this, all that stuff. So they forget all these other things. Like, oh yeah, there's a lot of good in him. There's a lot of good in her. So what's the big deal? The problem is that when you make certain exceptions, you have to understand that it's only downhill from there. Once you make exceptions with halacha, once you make exceptions with Torah, it's only going to get worse from there. It's not going to get better. Once you allow your daughter to wear a skirt that just borderline covers the knees, it's only going to get worse from there. Once you allow your daughter to wear a short sleeve shirt, it's only going to get worse from there. Once you allow your wife to go to the event once a year, to an event, without covering her hair, it's only going to get worse from there. It's never going to get better. Once you make exceptions with halakha that, okay, you know what, we'll go to this restaurant. It's not a meat restaurant. You know what, let me just do this. Let me just start making exceptions. It only gets worse from there. And the same goes with all opinions in the Torah, where one time you publicize a chidush without double checking it. One time you decide that something is allowed when you weren't really sure. One time you did this and one time you did that. It only gets worse from there. And it's in essence the same concept of what's happened to us as Jews, as a nation, that technically, if you go back almost 200 years, 150 years, actually, you know what? Not even 50 years, 60 years. 60 years ago, the conservative Jews were very similar to modern Orthodox today. And the reason why is because 60 years ago, conservative Jews, which according to all standards today are considered Reformed, the same thing as Reformed today, but 60 years ago, they didn't drive on Shabbat. That's when they made a decision that you should drive on Shabbat. So 60 years ago, they were pretty much not willing to make the exception that they've made after that. Now, you fast forward, 60 years later, it's much, much worse. Why? Many of them are vocal about the fact that they don't believe in the oral Torah. Many of them are very vocal about the fact that they approve homosexuality and things that are against the Torah. Many of them are vocal about being pro-intermarriage. And this is fast forward. Now, if you look at Orthodox Judaism, 60 years ago, there wasn't such a thing as modern Orthodox. Today, you have modern Orthodox. Today, many people that call themselves modern Orthodox drive on Shabbat. Meaning they're not Orthodox at all. Forget modern, forget not modern. They're not Orthodox at all. As a matter of fact, they're not even considered amitecha. They're not considered part of your nation because they drive on Shabbat regardless of where they drive. So, it all starts with one small exception. It all starts with one small exception. So, that's the thing that people need to know, that at the end of days, before Mashiach comes, you're not going to be able to make those small exceptions without paying a very, very heavy price for it. Those small exceptions are going to become very expensive. And that's what we're trying to talk about today. Is that it's time to make the choice. Go one way, go the other way. Be Reform or be Orthodox. Be Rasha, be Tzaddik. Whatever you want to be, but at least pick a choice. That's in essence what we're trying to uncover of what's happening in the news, what's happening to Am Yisrael. HaShem is mamash showing us that the fakers are coming out of the woods, and they're being exposed. It's time for us to stop being fakers. It's time for us to stop being fakers and start doing tshuva. So Bezat Hashem, we'll talk about more stuff on Tuesday. Bezat Hashem at the Breslov Center. We have the Pirkei Avot series. I think we're up to number 105. The new Mishnah, new things. Unless you guys have any pertinent questions, since now I'm about to shut off the camera, I'm sure you guys have 87 questions. But if you don't, then I'll let you guys get some sleep. Anything? בסדר, ברוך ה' לעולם, אמן ואמן.